Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Facilities Unfiltered, the built reality, where we navigate the space where theory meets real-world chaos. I'm Josh.
And I'm Nick. And today we're going to introduce a short series on AI in facility management. The name of this episode is What AI Can't Do For You. And just briefly coming into this, we were doing a little bit of research, and I think Josh brought up some really interesting stats about AI and FM. Josh, if you want to dig into those.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, we've seen it from, the trending conferences of 3 years ago. I gave my first presentation on AI, and I was like one of two. Last year, we talked about AI, and we were one of a handful, but it was more than two. It was trending, and they were very well attended. And this year, went to a couple of conferences, and if you didn't have AI in your title, your classes were pretty empty. The stat that stuck out to me more than anything, and actually you brought it up of like, wow, that seems weird, right? We were looking at stats, and JLL did a survey, I think 2024, where it said, hey, 10.4% of FM groups, owners, services groups, right, are using AI somewhere in their embedded workflow. And we're like, wow, 2024, that seems low. Well, let's go see. Well, it turns out JLL did the same survey a year later, and it went to 28.8%. That was 2025, right? We're now in 2026. If I were to project, boy, we have to be getting to 50 or 60% or maybe more. It really is this anomaly to some degree in, I don't know if we've seen this rate of pressure put on any technology that we've ever adopted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the failure of the robot technology. There was a lot of pressure there. I remember early on, we were worried about the robots are going to be cleaning our bathrooms and the custodians are going to have jobs. That never really came to fruition from 15 years ago to today. I still haven't seen it. But, when I left FM in 2024, we were just starting to see it. And I mean, there was a lot of hesitation around it. ChatGPT had just kind of came out, and some of the directors I knew were just starting to kind of dabble in it. But I think there was a lot of reluctancy to accept it or even believe that AI was going to be helpful in the facility management workspace. But now, today, the conversations we're having with people, both from an owner's perspective and a firm side, people are actively engaging and want to know how it can help them, and more acceptingly saying, yes, this needs to be a part of our business structure. So I agree with your final statement. I mean, this year's stats are going to be really interesting. If it's anything less than 50%, I'll be overwhelmingly surprised.
Same. And, it's interesting as we talk about technologies, right? And, you brought up robots. Yeah. Robots are there, and they're probably coming again. It wasn't the first time. It's like, I'm a child of the 80s, and boy, we were going to have VR how many times, right? Like, man, I had that Power Glove, and that was going to be, the wave of the future, and they all fizzled. And now my son only plays games on VR to some degree, and it really is here. And so I think some of these technologies are almost test runs, right? Like maybe they're a little too early. Maybe they're that. And to some degree, I think we saw that with AI, right? I mean, you've been playing with it. I've been playing with it. And if we were to even go back to 2024, when it was first coming out, it really was wrong a lot. Yeah. It just was. And I mean, we fast forward to 2026, and boy, it's a lot more accurate, right? Fact checking it is a very different story nowadays than it used to be. And so the evolution of it is coming so fast, and the usefulness of it is coming so fast, that I agree with you. If we don't hit 50, 60%, I'll be shocked.
Yeah. I think it's also that regular consumers can afford it now. That was the big thing with the robot cleaning. I did a lot of demos, and we even tried it. It was just too expensive. There wasn't an ROI on it. Mm-hmm. I think people now are really, I think for plus years ago, AI, to get good AI, you needed serious backing behind that, right? But now there is ROI for any size firm or owner to start using it in part of their processes, right?
Great point. Absolutely. Accessibility is key. Accessibility is, especially with adoption and all those things. I saw an interesting article the other day that was like, quit teaching your people AI. We never taught them Excel. Right. Like, and it's kind of an interesting tweak, right? Because that Excel community, we still encounter them selling software today. You get these Excel junkies, and not to knock them, honestly, they can do almost anything in Excel. The problem is the linchpin of that entire organization functioning is on that one person that knows how to function that Excel sheet, right? Yeah. But I think AI is a little bit different than that. It democratize is probably overused as a term, but I think I'll use it in this sense of it kind of is democratizing coding a little bit, right? It's making coding more accessible. You and I have experienced that firsthand as being people who aren't coders, right? But we're writing some scripts and doing some things and making things function in ways that, you and I were hunting and pecking before and making some progress, but now we can do some real damage, so to speak, with very little knowledge or training.
Yeah. And you touched on a really good point that I want to make sure we hit on before we really jump into this next section. But AI isn't just a magic button that's going to take your job. And I think what we're all learning and experiencing is that it takes your professional knowledge. So if you are that linchpin with the Excel sheet, it's not going to replace you, right? You still need to know how to prompt and direct it to get the proper outcomes and results that you're looking for in your organization. So anybody that might be listening that was like me a year and a half ago and had a lot of AI hesitancy, it's not coming for our jobs. There really is quite a bit we can do, and it takes the professional to be able to run it and get the results, because the age-old quote, garbage in, garbage out, still applies here.
It absolutely does. I'll not challenge that a little bit, but I'll put some caveats around it, right?
Yeah.
AI is not coming for your job directly. I agree, right? The robots are not coming yet, and we'll dig into the next section, really talk about what AI can't do. But in terms of AI being your assistant, another body, you and I encounter this on a daily basis, having to do the things that we frankly hate doing and we're never good at doing. I failed every English class I almost ever took, right? Because I just didn't like writing. This is like my best friend because I'm good at telling it what I don't like, right? And so being able to use it as that companion or that resource, or like 100 little companions or resources behind you doing those things, helping you put together proposals or presentations or make things pretty that, wouldn't have been pretty before. And so from the idea that AI is coming for your job, I agree, it's not. However, a human who knows how to utilize AI to make themselves a more marketable product, right, out there in the job workforce might be coming for your job if you're not trying to empower yourself with the power that AI really gives you. And so my only caveat to the statement of AI is not coming for your job is somebody who knows how to use it might be.
And I'll throw more on that, in that we have said many times, and we will continue to say, facilities we know are underfunded and understaffed. Mm-hmm. This is a very viable solution to do all of those things, presentations, putting together the worksheets, that we never have the time to give proper attention to because we are so budget or staff stricken. That, Josh, you're absolutely right. There are going to be adopters that have the knowledge and the ability to use AI to fill in those holes in facilities. I don't see a time. Chris said it really well on a couple podcasts ago. If we had all the money in the world, it would be great. Do we ever see that happening in facilities? No. We need to find a solution for the lack of budget, for the lack of staff. And this really is the most promising thing I can think of that we've had to date.
So far, absolutely.
Yeah.
That being said, let's dig into it, right? Let's have a little fun.
Yeah.
Look, we've seen the hype, we've seen everything about this. We go to the shows and watch the, software, maybe vaporware, maybe something else, talk about the potential, hey, it's going to do this. It's going to solve all these problems for us. It's going to automate this. It's going to, predictive that. All the buzzwords you can possibly think of are being lumped together and thrown at us all at once. And in a lot of cases, the AI that really exists out there and a lot of the tools is kind of bolt on or pass through, right? It's not optimized. It's not configured. It is really falling short of expectations, right? And I mean, there's some other stats out there that have shown that, over the last year, 85% of AI projects fall short of expectations. A lot of that has to do with the underlying data and how AI is accessing the underlying data in order to create its conclusions. I think that's something that we'll dig into, but that's also something that AI can't do, right? So
Yeah.
let's start off the conversation of what AI can't do. AI can't fix your data, and AI doesn't know what it's missing. It just doesn't. And so if you don't have all of your data configured in a way that AI can take it, and you don't have all of your data, right, it's going to draw wrong conclusions.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, there's an unrealistic expectation, I think, going around AI, and there's a hesitancy. AI can't walk the floor.
Nope.
It is one of the most important functions in FM that simply cannot be replaced. You get up on the roof, the normal hum that belongs up there. If something's tinking around, you'll hear it. Walking through to check for cleanliness, building relationships with people in the building, those are irreplaceable by AI in my mind. Those are the FM functions that simply can't be replaced because our eyes and ears, they know the facility, right? Inside and out, they know the people of the facility. They have relationships. I know some people that have more pride in the work they do in their facility than they do at home. I was one of those people, right? Like any repair, any project, it's that personal relationship that FMs have with the facility that can't be replicated.
It's a great point, right? And thinking back to our interview with Dave, it's the people side, right? It's that side of it is so important when it comes down to breaking down all of these things and getting to the root issue. And it leads to also somebody to own the outcome, right? Mm-hmm. AI is not there to take ownership of a problem. Right. And so, from the standpoint of great, who do I go to? Nobody in a building when there's water pouring out of the ceiling wants to go and have a conversation with a customer service chatbot.
Nope.
Right. It just doesn't work. There's still, the hero side of the FM world, which is you take care of stuff in an emergency situation. And I don't know what world that AI will be able to have the same control, communication, right? Just taking ownership of an issue to get it done in those situations. And people will always need to be in the loop.
No, I agree. I mean, I think to some extent the job will evolve as AI evolves. Will we get to that point in our lifetime? I don't know if that happens in our working careers or our lifetime. Maybe it does, but in the near future, you can't replace that institutional knowledge. It can help you house it. It can help you store it. It can help you clean it.
I mean, one of the other stats that sticks out at me, Nick, that I think speaks to exactly the point you're trying to make here, which is, and this is an IFMA stat, right? 40% of your technician's time is wasted dealing with data that's in disconnected systems or sitting away in file drawers or whatever else it is. I'm going to take a little bit of a leap here and jump into I'm going to put my future hat on for a second, right? Like, there is a world where augmented reality really starts to take hold, and we have meta glasses on, or the Oakley version, whatever it is, right? We have our glasses on with our AR, and it's seeing what we're seeing, and it's showing us where we need to go, and it's showing us what thing we need to pull out, and it's walking us through the training materials, as we go and maintain this, and it's actually overlaying in my real world vision and can do that stuff. Even if we take it to the nth degree of what the future could look like, there's still a human in that role, right? Yeah. And so I think that's the piece that we want to focus on specifically today, is that human still has to be in there, because robots, even if they become a thing that's possible, which I'm sure it is, we've all seen the Boston Dynamics videos and the alphabet soup companies that have all these crazy, creepy robots with the little goose thing that can open doors, right? Like, it gets really weird really quick. So I'm not saying they're not out there, but guess what? Facilities don't have $100,000 to drop on a robot that can do everything that a human can do and then maintain the robot, right? So it's still an issue of the human's still the better choice. The human can still get to the places that the robot can't get to. I'm not saying there's not a place for robots. There probably is. It's probably in high-risk facilities where there's danger everywhere, right? Like, there's absolutely spots. We found that out with drones, right? Roof inspections. Drones are great for roof inspections. There is you will not get me to put somebody on a ladder to go do a roof inspection ever again, knowing that there's drones out there. But humans still in the loop.
I love drones for roof inspections too, but having found some really bad roofs, much as the way as AI can't truly replace human touch and feel right now, there is something to walking on a roof where the membrane might look fine, but the substrate is absolutely shot that you might not pick up. So I'll bite back on that a little bit, in that
flat roof, I guess, in my mind, the scenario that I was looking at was like the clay tile sloped roofs that you don't want to go step foot on, because you might do more damage inspecting those, right? Like all of those types of things. Yes, there's a right and wrong place for everything. Yes. I would agree. A flat roof you can put feet on. Yeah. That squishy feel means something, right?
Yep. Yeah. So even in that scenario, it's using the tools for the right job, right? Where it makes sense ultimately. And I think we still need to be the ones to make that decision. Right?
So here's the other interesting thing. And, this is something that I'm going to throw to you, because you used to, turn wrenches in facilities and get thrown a whole bunch of other things. The one thing that I think most people don't understand about AI and what it does right now is it's not thinking for itself, right? It's drawing on past conclusions to regurgitate things in a way. And so it actually creates a big weakness for AI, which is it really truly can't handle something novel, right? It's the first time this issue has ever arisen. And think about all of the different scenarios inside of facilities. Sure, there's commonalities, and you and I can talk about how I don't care if you're in a data center, to a higher ed, to a K through 12, to your own house. I can find a string of commonality that we can relate all buildings to one another. But you and I also know that if you've been in one hospital, it just means you've been in one hospital, because they all have unique sites and building types and materials and all the things that go into it, and different flooding conditions or not flooding conditions, right? And so it's just one of those interesting things. I mean, how often did you encounter things that it was the first time you've ever seen that before?
That's what I loved about facilities. I would always say it's never the same thing day over day. Now, of course, that's a bit of an overstatement, but
sure.
To your point, yes, there are steel boxes, okay, and a large amount of building is moved towards steel boxes, and a certain group of FMs feel a way about that, and a certain group of them feel another way about it. But ultimately, even in just a steel box construction, you have variance in construction quality, construction material, routing, architectural finishes, and the list goes on, right? There is almost, unless you get into track homes, and malls might be the one outlier I can think of. There's no rinse and repeat.
Well, heavy retail and commercial chains, right? So like, the Pottery Barns of the world, the McDonald's of the world, the things that build a whole bunch of the same thing all over. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, there's some variance in there, but there's very little rinse and repeat in facilities. Most of us are dealing with a barrage of aged buildings that have decades of different architectural, specifications, and then even more decades of varying quality of repairs done by various contractors.
Yeah. And guess what? AI is not good at doing the novel thing, right? So, I don't want to dwell on the negative necessarily of AI, because I think you and I are both on the AI train, and it's leaving and speeding away very quickly. So I recommend that if you haven't gotten on the AI train, you at least start. And that kind of leads us into, okay, so we've identified the things that AI can't do, but I want to do AI. I don't want to be left at the train station when, the bullet train's heading away from me. We want to be on the train, whether we're at the back or the front, doesn't matter. We want to be on the train. We've gone through this with firms. What are your thoughts on what do they do first? How do you kind of get on, like you said, you left facilities and you came to Akita Box, and, AI was new. And now I would say that you're as upfront on AI as a lot of other people in terms of usage and daily usage and all the things. I mean, where'd you start? What made you go from here to here in the AI journey?
It's a good question. So started small. I'm a terrible speller. I spell at a second grade level. So my introduction to AI was really through spelling tools that I was able to put extensions into my email, right? And that cleaned up my writing. And being at the level I was at and the people I was conversating with regularly on clients, like not being able to grammatically put together a sentence structure correctly, like it wasn't a good look, right? So I started small with something that I wasn't very good at, and I found extreme efficiencies, and it made me a better professional instantly, right? So then step it up once. Like I was pretty good at Excel, but I saw a lot of people doing really cool stuff that I couldn't. So when I first got here, and I didn't unfortunately do this in my facility management career, but when I first got here, there was a lot of data entry and building demo spaces that were realistic. Well, there was a big use for AI and be able to not only dissect and create and help you comb out Excel sheets in a way that I couldn't do, but I did learn to do through AI. So I was learning through the process. And I think for a lot of facility managers, we are continual learners, as Chris Stoddard stated in a previous episode. And we want to be learning, we want to be fixing problems. So I saw how I could learn through it while fixing the problems and my own deficiencies and making myself more effective. Fast forward, a year later to now, we're going as far as very complex scripts to help BI dashboards and deliverables for firms and owners. It starts off gradual and simple with just what don't I do well? And that got me over the hesitancy. And then, okay, wow, this is really useful. Then I think the way FM brains are wired, you will naturally just dive in.
So if I could boil what, you just said down into a sentence for people to adopt, what I heard was pick a use case, improve it.
Yep.
Then find your next use case, improve that, right? It truly is just get a win, right? Like just go do something. Had an interesting conversation, been a lot of conferences lately, right? And having conversations with our clients to potential clients to, the random adult trick-or-treater that stops by the booth for a level. It's interesting to talk to some of these folks about AI who have been like, yeah, I was a slow adopter to email. I just have been too intimidated by AI, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that I always tell them is, look, it's not like any other technology you've ever adopted. You can swear at this technology, right? Like if it gives you back something that you don't like, you can tell it off and it'll apologize and give you another answer. Maybe you like that one, maybe you don't. But the thing is that you can jump in with it. And even if you don't know where to start, open up an AI browser and just ask it. I've never used AI before. Where do I start? It will tell you. It's a weird experience, right? As somebody who's always been a researcher, I love to research, right? I love to find out knowledge. And now I can't tell you the last time I used Google to just Google something, because why would I Google something and click on a website when I can just ask my question? And it's not like, I think a lot of people view AI, or at least, I think people who don't use AI over exaggerate like they do with our smartphones. Well, the smartphones are making people dumber. Well, AI is going to make us even dumber. I would actually push back a little and go, I have learned more and retained more knowledge in the last 12 months of having AI help me with my tasks and things that I don't know, and asking it questions and having it do research for me and find the 3 best websites that reference the exact information that I'm looking for. And I don't have to click into 30 to find it, because I gave it all the parameters and it came back with the results that then I can use the references for, right? It's just, I personally am getting so much more depth of knowledge out of utilizing AI. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's been a revelation to me that I am getting smarter.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think a lot of us did a lot of research to gain that knowledge, but we are just getting so much more research done and so much more knowledge done in a shorter amount of time. I'm thinking about creating safety programs and preventative maintenance schedules. If I didn't know a piece of equipment, I would go research the manufacturer specs and go through the safety procedures, right? And you're going to 5-10 different websites to put this thing together. Utilizing AI, you know where to point it, but now you're learning everything that it's spit out, and maybe you're adjusting it, maybe you're not, but there's still, you're dead right. There's still a learning process. The normal learning process, I would even say, that we've all been going through with research ever since the internet has come about. It's just much quicker than we've ever done it.
Yeah, by multipliers, right?
Exponential.
It's a lot more stuff to dig through, but a lot more options too to put your story together. With that, look, I'm excited to dig into some of the next ones where we talk about foundational data and we dig into AI costing, and we'll talk about preventative maintenance and work orders and reactive, and there's a whole lot of things to cover and wrap up with some capital planning stuff. Before we log off for this and start pointing at the next episodes, any kind of final words of wisdom, Nick, for the folks of, let's make sure we say this before we log off?
I can't put it better than you put it earlier. Find your use case, prove it. Find another one, prove it, and continue the pattern.
Awesome. Love
to
that.
Help us. Yep.
Absolutely. It's my best friend now. I might need a therapist later for that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. With that, really want to appreciate and thank everybody for listening again today. Thanks to Akita Box for sponsoring. And with that, stop fighting fires and start managing the heat.